This one's for the parents building big things in tiny pockets of time. Take a deep breath. You've landed somewhere real. Hey, I'm Gabs Hayes, mom of three, business mentor, and your go to voice note battle buddy for anyone who's ever whispered, I love this life, but holy shit, it's a lot. I am really excited to introduce you all to this week's guest. Naomi has been a wonderful LinkedIn friend of mine, and we bonded over just this like raw vulnerability of life and the journeys that we've gone through. And also, Naomi's a therapist, and so I really just appreciate and respect the work that you do in this world. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the Overwhelmed and Over audience.
Well, thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. I am really thrilled to be here. I am indeed a therapist, but before I was a therapist, I spent 17 years in the corporate world in various marketing positions. And then I went back to school to become a therapist, and I immediately started a private practice. So I own my own business. I am a founder. I have at times been overwhelmed and over it myself. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Naomi, I know you've had, some of your own journeys as you have figured out being a founder, and I don't know that I realized you went straight from like becoming a therapist into private practice, which I'm sure added a lot of complexities to getting that journey started. As you look back on that journey now, what are some of the things that you would tell early stage Naomi when she was getting started that maybe were going to be difficult that you've found your way through at this point?
I think I would have told her that patience is indeed a virtue. And I think old Naomi would look at me now and go, yeah, I know it is. I know it's a virtue. We all know that. But it really is. Time takes time. So while I knew intellectually that it was going to take time for me to build up a caseload, and for non therapists who are listening, a caseload just means a certain number of clients that I wanted to have a full practice. I knew that was going to take time, but I was running out of patience for the time it was taking. And I wasn't really measuring my successes in ways that weren't number of clients signed. And I think I would have told my old self to come up with maybe some other KPIs that I could feel good about in that messy middle of, okay, I have a couple clients, but I actually want 20 a week.
Yeah, I found that to be true also coming from corporate. It takes us time to decondition from those metrics that we were taught that matter, right? And putting that in big quotations. And I'm laughing at the patience is a virtue because I remember early in my career, I would say all the time, patience is a virtue, just not one that I've obtained. And so it was like I knew it, but I also was working hard against that. Now that you are several years in and you're feeling more established, what are you measuring yourself as success as now these days?
I'm measuring my success by how I feel every week. And so, I talk about KPIs. I don't know that I've quantified that, but I do check in with myself to see, okay, have I had a fulfilling work week? Have I connected with my clients? Have I helped them? Because ultimately, the reason why I chose this profession was ultimately to help people. So, am I feeling good? Am I helping people? I also have a LinkedIn presence where I create content every day. So, I take a look at some of the engagements I have there. And I really go from there. It really depends on the week.
That's so valid. I always talk about the journey is the fun part of this. I think it's so easy for us to look at the end goal, which is whether we have a business that pays our bills or we have a full caseload or client load or, whatever those goals may be. And we can get so set on that end objective that we forget to enjoy this journey and between. If our content reaches 300 people that day, and it can feel disappointing when you look at other people's numbers or other people's engagement rates. And then you're like, wait, 300 people got to hear this message that I shared with intention, that I wanted to make a difference for someone. How do you find yourself keep going if you do have those weeks where you're like, I checked in with myself and I'm still actually not feeling that great about it? Do you have any tricks that you would share with us around how you keep going?
Yeah, well, our mood is multifactorial. And so, even if we're checking in and going, how do I feel about the jobs that I did this week? It's not only about the job. We can't compartmentalize like that. We are whole human beings. And because I'm a therapist and because I am a therapist specifically for professionals, this is something I speak to all the time with clients. They'll say, "Oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed with work," or "I don't feel good about work," or a founder who's going, I just don't feel good. Okay, what else is going on in your life? How's your home environment? How are your relationships? How's your exercise? How's your diet? What are you doing to help keep your mood up? Because there's so many different factors. The other piece of this, and this is what I get into in therapy as well, is that if you're having a really strong reaction to something, let's say you have a client pitch and it doesn't go well, and you are having a really intense emotional reaction to that that's higher than maybe a 4 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10, it's likely that it's about more than the
Mm.
client pitch. It is likely that there is something else, either from your past or patterns from your recent present, that are impacting you to have that reaction. So it's not only about the thing that you're upset about all the time.
That's really good, and I love how tactical that is. Because something I learned about myself last year, and it was definitely there and present in my, career, but I am a huge proponent of once you become an entrepreneur, there is no separating your personal life from your professional life anymore, no matter how much you want to. And I realized last year that I was a very reactive person. And it took a few clients that I was working with that were misaligned, that we ended up not having the right values. And I would feel that reactivity building up inside of me. And so I love this reminder to like check in with yourself, especially on this scale. Like, am I feeling reactive to either the pitch didn't go well or something someone said to me in a meeting or something someone said online? Like, am I feeling reactive to that specific thing? Or was what happened the kind of final boiling point where my body just couldn't deal with it anymore? So I have found for me, I wanted to become more responsive instead of reactive. And that also meant I had to remove myself. So if I would hang up with like a client call and I was just feeling that worked up energy, I would literally go stand outside, put my feet in the grass, and even if it was 2 minutes, just breathe for a second and like removing myself from that situation was really helpful. I really appreciate you sharing this thing that we can check in with ourselves on because it's so easy to just get really caught up in the day to day and like what's the next thing you have to do. And so if that call goes well, you or doesn't go well, you hang up and go on to the next thing. And sometimes what that next thing is that you need is just a little space to process those feelings and acknowledge where all of them are coming from.
Definitely. And you talk about how you notice that you were more reactive than you wanted to be. A lot of people are. And it is about creating that pause so that our nervous system can calm down, so that we can plug back into our brains, which know intellectually that, maybe the client interaction didn't go well because of some issue that has nothing to do with us personally. Our brains are always doing their job of being really smart, but it can be really hard to tap into them when our nervous system is really triggered or really overstimulated. And that's that feeling of reactivity. So we feel an emotional reaction, we feel it in our body, and then we're going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And we're trying to tap into logic and we can't. And that's where we start having something called cognitive distortions. And so, what you're doing, which you just decided to do naturally, which is, okay, I feel this reaction bubbling up in my body, and I am going to create a pause. I'm going to calm my nervous system down. And now I can think more rationally about this.
I want to tap into this a little bit because I know inside of my community, we've talked some about this that sometimes it can feel even hard to clue in to your body and to feel those feelings. What advice would you give someone who's like, I know I'm not showing up the way I want to, but I'm not catching those feelings before the burst happens? Any recommendations you would have for us there?
This happens a lot where we are not really tapped in to our bodies and how we're feeling. And I would recommend for the people who like to do reading to check out somatic practices or how to notice feelings in the body. But at its most basic, let's say you're feeling somewhat anxious. Take a pause and go, okay, where am I feeling this in my body? Is it my stomach? Is it my chest? How's my breathing? Are my palms sweaty? Where am I feeling it? It's almost like you need to practice noticing it in order to notice it automatically. And the time to practice it is not when you're having an extreme emotion.
I've heard that phrase like the body keeps score. And so the
Yes.
body knows, what you're going through, but it does take some intentionality to decide I don't want to keep feeling this way, or I don't want my life experiences to keep feeling this way. So I have to decide I'm going to do something about it. And intentionality is something that I definitely didn't start with in business one. My first business was very similar to what I was doing in my career. So I think I just like rolled right into it without any planning, any thinking, and there's a lot of danger that came with that. But I also think it has allowed me to realize now that I'm doing work outside of that, I do have full control of this situation and I do have full control over how I show up. And so I know just before we hit record, I was telling you about this kind of week that I had with my depression dip and coming back. And it was really powerful to look around and be like, one, I feel it. I feel it coming on. I feel it heading this way. But two, accepting that I do have full control over my schedule and this business and what happens. And if I know that what I need right now, because I'm feeling it in my body, is to step away for a bit, take a break, I can do that. And that's not to say that it's not hard, but it is a huge part of taking care of ourselves. Any other tips or thoughts that you would share with others that are in this space, or maybe people like that you work with in your practice where they know they need a break for just a sec, but they can't quite give themselves that permission to take it?
It can be very tricky because it can be a cycle of, I know I need the break, but I'm not allowed to take it or I can't because of X, Y, and Z. And usually, what I end up seeing in my practice are the people who have ignored their instincts and are at a point where they are extremely burnt out or they're suffering from symptoms of clinical depression or clinical anxiety or what have you. And so typically when I see those people, it is about teaching them ways to prevent. And it's basic, but it's not simple in that it really is about believing your body and believing yourself when you start feeling this, I really need to take a break. Listen to your body. And it's very hard to listen to our bodies when we have all these other commitments. And unfortunately, I wish as humans we're not like this, but unfortunately, most of us need a bit of an exposure to what happens when we don't listen to our body in order to start proactively listening to it.
Oh, that's the mic drop moment right there, Naomi. It's like, I remember I did a keynote speech last year towards the end of the year, and I said, my whole premise here is so that people don't have to go through as much trauma as I did to learn the lessons I learned. But I think you're so right. I mean, some of this is just human nature. We have to experience it directly in front of our face for us to be ready, to actually make those changes. What are some changes you have made in your practice since starting that has made it feel more aligned with your life and make it feel more supportive for you to take care of yourself?
Well, I'll preface this with when I first started my private practice, I was very go, go, go. I do have two young kids, so of course I needed to make time for them, and I did. But when I wasn't with them, I was really intensely focused on the practice and doing the marketing and writing business plans and coming up with all sorts of things. And I was really anxious to get it filled. I did fill it in about 8 months, and I was thrilled with that. But right when I filled it, I got diagnosed with out of nowhere random breast cancer. And everything had to be recalibrated because all of a sudden I had to go get treatment for cancer. The full gamut, the chemo, the double mastectomy, the everything. And I had to decide, oh my gosh, well, I need to make my practice fit my life now because it really is a matter of life or death. It wasn't really a choice. And so I had to pull back. I actually referred a whole bunch of clients out, though I kept working. And I had to really think, okay, how much work can I actually do? How much energy do I have? And do I have enough energy to actually give my clients the proper care that they need, which not only is important to me as a business person, but therapy is a highly regulated practice and it would be unethical for me to not be able to. So I was able to recalibrate because I had this very, very real thing where there was just no choice. And it's what I was speaking to before, that sometimes it can take something like that to really shake us up. So I'm done my cancer treatment now. And so I needed to build a second time and rebuild the practice a second time. I was able to take what I learned. So it's funny when you ask me, what would you tell old Naomi? Well, I got to be old Naomi a second time. And I was able to go, okay, I know that I need to be patient. I know that I need to pace myself in order to preserve my energy and to preserve my happiness too, because I would like to enjoy my life while I am rebuilding my practice. I don't want to be constantly hustling. I would pay attention to the law of diminishing returns. We know that sometimes working all the time isn't necessarily your best bet. It's about being strategic. And so I was able to do that, and I was able to fill it again in about 6 months, I think.
Wow. Well, first, I am just so grateful that you're on the other side of the journey. And I thank you very much for sharing that with us. Yes, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think the rebuild is something many of us go through. And even if we don't wholeheartedly identify it as that, when you take a step back, many of us can look at it and say, okay, I either ran myself or the business into the ground the first time around. And now, I need to take a step back and look at it differently. But you're right. Even going through the founder's journey a second, third, fourth time, we always will carry forward those lessons that we learned. And so I always like to tell people, you're never truly starting over completely, right? You may be starting over with new work, new clients, new types of work, whatever that may be. But you have all of these lessons that have come with you that allow you. And I think your story is such beautiful proof. Like, first time around, it took you 8 months. Second time around, it took you 6 months because you knew exactly what you were aiming towards. You knew exactly what those goals were this time around. And I just appreciate all of the knowledge that you have shared with us today. I feel very supported by your energy and have loved getting to know you. And I hope that our audience does as well. And one of my favorite questions to wrap up the interview with is, what support do you or your business need right now?
For me, it has been all about the networking. Because I am a solopreneur, I'm quite isolated. I do virtual therapy and I do it in my basement office. And I have a vast network, but they're all business people from business school. None of them are therapists.
Mm.
So for me, the type of support my business needs, it's all about the networking. I network with coaches. I network with anybody who is in a mental health adjacent space. And it has been incredibly helpful because it's opened up all sorts of opportunities like this conversation. But I have ended up speaking on a stage because of LinkedIn opportunities. I have gotten clients because of LinkedIn networking. And so for me, in terms of support, just continued networking is really all that I need.
Fabulous. Well, Naomi, we will make sure we have all of your links in the show notes so that everyone can connect with you directly. Thank you so much for being here, Naomi, and sharing your story and all the lessons that you've learned along the way.
Thanks for having me.
Want to be in a room where you are supported even on the days you aren't sure you needed it? Just this week, we got a message from one of our village members. I'm so grateful to be in the community surrounded by people that want to make an impact professionally, but more importantly, show up for their families. Doing both is so hard, and having this community is so helpful. That's all we've ever wanted the village to be. It's a place where you feel supported, where you feel helped, where you feel held, and we can talk about the messy, ugly parts. And this conversation happened on our Thursday transparency thread, but we're having these kind of conversations every day. We would absolutely love to have you join us. Link in the show notes to join us inside of the village where we can hold space for you, your business, and all of the messy things that come along with changing your legacy.